Welcome to this episode on All Things LOCS. I'm Antonio Garcia. I'm here with my business partner, Dr. Dan Neissany, where we cover everything related to leadership, operation, culture, and strategy. And today, we have a very special guest. We have a former professional bodybuilder who successfully made his first exit in his mid-20s. And also, he's a biohacking and mindset expert. I'm fired up to have you here, Jon Andersen. Welcome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. No, and it's not only high-level bodybuilding, but I was also a high-level strongman and a professional wrestler in this whole journey. So I've worn a lot of hats.
So at the end of everything, we're going to move this furniture, see if you still got it. No, I'm just kidding. No,
so who am I going to be slamming?
Yeah.
Which one of you guys is getting slammed?
Who I'll be throwing across the meat section? You or you at the same time? Choke slam. So one of the things that stuck out to me that I love, so we had a kind of conversation beforehand off camera where you're talking about the real estate between your ears is considered a supercomputer and that not enough people treat it that way, look at it that way. Tell me a little bit about kind of that mindset of like, look, guys, it's not a brain, it's not a mind, but it's a supercomputer, and you got to treat it that way.
I mean, God, I'm the king of making them simple. That's been my way of being success. I find success through simplicity. I distill things, boil it down. So just to touch on that, like with the easiest way where people can kind of attach what we're going to talk about, excuse me. So a person that's thinking about not going to the gym, he set his mind down the path of not going to the gym. So his brain is going to start finding the supporting reasons why he shouldn't go to the gym.
Right.
All because he set his mind down that path. Now, let's just say that he decided, okay, I'm going to start to think about the reasons why I should go to the gym. Mm-hmm. His brain is going to go collect those reasons. And so if you understand the power of your mind, your supercomputer, I mean, at the most basic form, if you just point it in the right direction, it's going to still start gathering the information you need to do better at what you're trying to do. The problem is that the brain, the way it was designed to keep us alive way back when living to tomorrow was a huge, huge success. Mm-hmm. So it's designed to pick out problems. It's designed to pick out threats. And so anything that makes us feel uncomfortable, out of our comfort zone in any way, not familiar, it's going to basically,
we don't need all that today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when you understand that the brain is always going to go to that problem first, it's always going to go to comfort first, it's always going to go to familiar first, then you pretty much know where it's going to go.
Right. You know what's funny is when people start researching like the body, when you look at it, when you really start to go deep, it's electromagnetic essentially. And what you're talking about, 100%. And when these thoughts, they're magnetic of like thought. Mm-hmm. So if you're realizing like, hey, I'm going down this path and it almost feels like a virus where it's just it literally is. What are some things that has helped you, especially for, looking at your bio, like, there's times where you've had some pretty rough situations where it feels natural just to kind of fester in that world. How does someone kind of jack themselves out of that and move out of that? Because that's a pretty seductive place at times. Oh, yeah. Seductive.
Yeah, I mean, and
come on, stay.
Because the brain goes to what's familiar and the brain's programmed to find those problems, what's familiar to most people is that place where it's drama. It's all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think the first step is for people to realize that's where the brain's going to go. Mm-hmm. And then it's what I coach, what I teach, what I live is that every day we have a choice. We get to wake up and we get to decide, are we going to allow our brains to suck us into that losing or scarcity mindset? A lot of times people understand abundant and scarcity, so I break it down. Let's talk winning and losing mindset. Mm-hmm. When we've all lost, especially as a kid, maybe it's a soccer game. Well, you question yourself. Can you do it again? Mm-hmm. Don't really want to go to practice. Versus you're winning, you can't wait to do it again. Right. You're stoked. Your decision-making process in a winning mindset or an abundant mindset is very different than in a losing or a scarcity mindset. So you get to choose what mindset do you want to live in every day. You have to wake up and earn it every day because your mind, your brain, your supercomputer is programmed to go down the wrong rabbit hole. You got to catch it right away. Mm-hmm. I mean, me personally, I get up early. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm an early guy, yes. And I get up and I'm taking a piss. I'm not even done taking a leak and my brain starts going the wrong way. I catch it. And I talk to it, I say, I'm not listening to you today. Not happening. I know what you're going to tell me is most of what you're going to tell me never even comes to reality.
Do you humanize that person?
100%.
I saw like Jim Quick and like other folks where like give that voice.
It's a person.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to you today. No, shut up.
Shut your mouth, boy.
That's it. I mean, I don't know, what kind of curse words you use on the show, but I
all
let
of
it happen.
them. Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
In all languages.
I just say, fuck you. I'm not listening to you today. And I make the choice, okay, that I'm going to do my work, my self-work, to get myself in the proper mindset. And here's the crazy part. This is one of my favorite sayings. If a man trained his brain like he trained his chest, he'd have whatever kind of life he wanted. But we don't. If 5 minutes a day, I mean, that's the framework that I use. It's what I use with my clients. 5 minutes a day will change your life. It's repetition. You just got to keep doing it, just like anything else. You know, most people go to the gym and they do bench press every Monday. They don't bitch about that.
Yeah.
Right. No, so true though. You know, and I like what you said there because I feel, I think that's where we have a lot of systemic issues as society where we don't give ourselves the time to kind of hear the voices, right? It's just like you start hearing, it's like, all right, let me go on Twitter and start like Instagram and just block it out, or like you try to like kind of block the noise instead of just like, all right, hear it out and then do something to overcome it versus never dealing with it. And that's what, that's what you're really saying there. And, I'm curious to know what you think about as it relates to not just the mindset that some of us are working on a small scale, some of us on a large scale, but when it comes to like the fear of failure that we all have kind of associated with that. And I caught something that you said on social media, and it was like not so much the fear of failure, but like the fear of like what people are going to think of us. So I'm kind of curious to know like if you can kind of tease that out a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, most people are more afraid of what people are going to say because they failed than the failure itself. And then the same people, they don't understand that failure is the front door to success. You're not going to have success without failure. They're together. They're Siamese twins. You can't separate them. I love Michael Jordan is we all know him. We know how successful he was. He had the most ever game-winning shots as an NBA player. Well, he also had the most ever game losing shots. See, Michael clearly understood to be more successful than everybody else, he needed to fail more than everybody else. And he pursued failure. Yeah. And he wasn't worried about what other people said in the process. And so, when a person can free their minds about what other people think, that's like unlocking a part of their life that most people never get a chance to understand. Here's the thing. The people that are talking smack about your failure, these are the people that are stuck in lives you don't want to be in. Right. The people that are successful, when you fail, they're going to pick you up, dust you off, and say, great job, do it again. Next time you'll do a little bit better. So who is it are you listening to is what I ask. Are you really, who are the people you're listening to? Because the people that are throwing turds at you because you fail, they're the wrong ones. You don't want to be listening to them anyway.
100%.
And
it's so funny because like I think so we work with a lot of doctors, and doctors, for example, like think of a brain surgeon.
Yeah.
The idea of failure way to success does not work in the healthcare world. But if that same doctor starts opening up like a clinic or starts moving into the world of entrepreneurship, that's a thing that needs to be embraced. So when you're talking about like pursuing failure, it's not that you're failing to be a failure, but it's very similar to like what Thomas Edison did. Is like you're
testing.
You're testing like, oh, now I know to get this result, I can't do it this way or this way or this way. But ultimately, the numbers will get me to here.
And sometimes one of those failures gives you a result that you never even saw coming. In my dieting practice, everything that I teach, I develop myself from my own issues. And in some of my development of my organic, the organic development of my diet, I stumbled across some things that blew my mind. People still don't believe that some of this stuff works. Like, I had a massive, and going back to the very beginning, I was my tough start, a massive learning disability. I got picked on because I got picked on. I ran to Food for Comfort, and it's just this spiral. And basically, thank God I had all of that, because that's what allowed me to develop my work ethic, and I developed a really, really nasty set of problem-solving skills. I had to learn to do it different than everybody else, thank God, because, when you're young, you just want to be like everybody else. When you get older, all you want to do is not be like everybody else.
Right.
Well, I've never done anything like everybody else my whole life from the time I was little. So going back to, sometimes a failure, you're trying to be successful. You'll realize a failure actually turns into a massive, massive win. I couldn't stop overeating. I had a massive food issue. Still, I have to manage that. I'm a sugar addict. I'm an addict, period. But sugar, you give me one cookie, I'm eating yours. I'm getting the car keys. I'm going to 7-Eleven.
Where those Oreos go?
Yeah.
Single-handedly kept Oreo.
And so
in
I was
business,
like, okay, I need to figure out a way that I can overeat and still do what I want to do. So I started eating primarily protein. I could just eat because I would eat till I couldn't breathe pretty often. It was kind of sad, but it was the truth.
Yes.
And so I would I was eating just protein. And it was really just a stab at trying to not eat all the shit. And I couldn't believe the results that I got in terms of my training, my body composition. So from that point forward, I basically have been primarily a flesh eater my whole life because of this. And it wasn't like that fail. It was like this. Granted, it was just a stab in the dark that I was just, so sometimes when you think something is going to be a failure, it turns out to be the best thing ever.
What, if you don't mind me asking, like, what had to happen for you to make that shift, right? Because a lot of people don't. Like, you're like, I was overweight, my habits sucked, I was eating like shit. What had to happen in your life where you're like, all right, this isn't me, this isn't my identity, like, I need to do this now?
Well, it's a good question, and sometimes that I can kind of tell you the story, but when it comes down to it, sometimes the universe has a hand in some of us that end up doing cool shit. I was basically, I had myself in a pretty hot box, meaning that I was just this kind of downward spiral. I was eating to cover up the fact I was getting picked on. I was getting picked on worse because I was in the classes where all the stupid kids were and blah, blah, blah. Somewhere along the lines, I had seen the movie, and I didn't have TV. My mom was smart enough to realize, okay, this kid can't have the television.
So, shout out to mom.
Yeah, well, probably advice some parents could use now, but
so when I did see TV, it was just totally over the top for me. I saw the movie Conan the Barbarian, and I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger for the first time, and something just kind of shifted in me. It was crazy, and the weird part about it was, I knew something had shifted. I knew I was like, I have to pursue this. But I was still looking for the answers in the bottom of the cookie jar. So it was like I got kind of moved. I got by this encounter I had by seeing Arnold. But then it was like, I can't really answer the question of that was the trigger. And then at that point I was just constantly reaching and stabbing and just trying to figure stuff out. And I'd been told I couldn't my whole life because of the, my learning disabilities. And I've been, people were talking smack about me the whole time. So it was like, I got over that stuff early. It was like, I've been told I couldn't my whole life. So when I'm, trying to be this big, strong guy, and people are telling me I'm out of my mind and I'm telling them I want to do this and do that, I've heard all that before. So I just kept pushing forward and just kept failing, if you will. I've been failing my whole life. Failure had become, I don't want to say comfortable, but it was familiar.
Yeah.
And as we talk about our brains, our brains will seek familiar. Well, I was pretty good. Failure was pretty comfortable to me.
I want to kind of continue on that track where you said before that, so sometimes when people realize like, hey, I have an addiction and no matter what, they keep falling off the horse. So we live here in Vegas.
Yep.
And so you see this with gambling, seeing with drinking, you see it with adult entertainment. So the list goes on.
Yep.
And you said in one spot where I learned to take the wiring that I have with my addiction and use it to my advantage. Talk a little bit about that, where when someone's like, I can't seem to shake this. Maybe if I look at it from a different perspective, I can use that wiring 100%. In a different direction. Talk a little bit about that.
An addict is a highly, highly potential individual. Because that addiction is like, we all seen what addicts will do when they're trying to get their fix. Well, what's your fix? And so like for me, when I was massive sugar addiction, somebody would, spit on my face in the bus and I was running straight for maple bars and chocolate milk, right? And I developed a massive sugar addiction. Well, that sugar addiction was really ruling the roost when it came to my eating, and my eating was a big part of me trying to, to be this big, strong guy. So that's where I basically realized, okay, you've got this really strong addiction. I had it later in life with pain pills and all sorts of stuff. But when you realize that the power of this addiction, it'll drive you to do just about anything. And then you take that power of the addiction and you connect it to something constructive. Well, you're still getting your fix, but it's a constructive fix. And to make that jump from, you know, say booze or gambling or whatever to something, it's not an easy jump for sure. I mean, it's not like you can say, oh, I want to do this, and just snap your fingers and do it. I mean, you have to really, really center yourself around, you have to focus on, you are going to take that addictive behavior and you are going to pursue a new fix. Yeah. And you have to really understand the addiction, and the addiction's always going to keep pulling you towards all of these, you know, highly dopamine driven activities.
It sounds like there's a bit of a marriage that one should kind of put together. So cigarettes, for example, where it's like they're people are chain smoking. It's like, dude, you got to cut it out. So now they'll be like, all right, I'm going to have a cigarette. I'm not going to have as much cigarettes, but in order for me to earn one, I got to bust out 25 push-ups.
Perfect.
And so now every time they reach for the cigarettes, like they're not saying no to the cigarette, but a requirement is the 25 push-ups. And so before you know it, it's like push-ups, and then the cigarettes gets decreased. The consumption gets decreased, and then ultimately they move into the direction of more like fitness. So like things like that, is that kind of what you're meaning?
That 100%. I mean, that's a great example. I mean, for like when I help clients that have addictions, right? Because it happens all the time. They come to me and they've got these addictions. I mean, it's the first thing we have to do is we have to get them moving in a constructive lifestyle. Every day is, I call it a loop. It's a 24-hour loop with these 24-hour, 1-hour slots, right? And it's really easy for us to look at these 1-hour slots and say, okay, where are the problematic slots? Okay, you know, between 7 and 8 p.m., this is where I fuck up the most. So you understand that slot's dangerous. You got to kind of look at your slots, understand which slots you got to defend, and you got to make plans to defend those slots.
That's interesting.
Right? Yeah.
Defend your time slots.
Yeah, because those are, generally speaking, you're going to make humans make the same mistake over and over and over, almost at the same time, and it becomes so familiar. They don't even think it's a mistake anymore. It's crazy. Like, you know, someone could be trying to lose weight, and everything is perfect, but they're overeating at night one big time, and because they do that over and over and over, it's normal. It's familiar. They keep doing it. They don't even realize it's much of a problem, and then you have them do some inventory, like, oh shit. You remove that one thing, they start propelling themselves forward. So defending a slot where you're really fucking up with your addiction would be the first step. You got to remove that behavior right then and there. But more importantly, you know, an addiction, if it's something that, you know, a negative addiction, it's when you take that person and they start investing themselves in more of a, you know, good eating, positive exercise. Start investing in the positive side of life, they're going to get a very different feel to their life. And in most cases, you know, they'll actually be able to make that switch. The key is it's like they can make that switch and they can get out of the gate, but there's always that little bit of a sputter where people, you know, and then it's like that's the part you really got to watch and you got to get through that. But ultimately, you're just really changing your addiction. Like for me, I'm addicted to a lot of things that I do every day, but they're all constructive. And I just harness my addiction onto business, training, whatever it is. And you just have to realize that this and I have to manage my addictive behavior every day. If I don't manage this every day, it'll pull me the wrong way real quick. Yeah. And so to get out of that place, you got to defend that time slot. Maybe it's more than one.
I love that.
Remove that, because most times you've removed that couple of bad places. It's going to be much easier to move ahead. You'll get into that constructive mindset. Now you're getting your dopamine hits from the gym. You're getting your dopamine hits from doing your meal prep. You're getting your dopamine hits from doing your self work. You're getting your dopamine hits from, you know, working on yourself. Now you change things.
Yeah, you said a lot of great things there. And you know what I love about the aspect of just the addiction component is more so what you said about like what people get out of it, right? It's like what do we have like our routines and our habits and our rituals. It's like what are you actually getting out of it versus like I'm addicted to sugar. It's like well what's the sugar giving you, right? It's like feel certain. I just feel great. But when we're looking at how to actually, create, like you say, create those routines and rituals, like me and Antonio have talked about that for ourselves too. It's like, what's the stuff on our calendar and our schedule that's leading to wins versus the stuff that you're doing, like eating like shit at night, that's leading to losses, so to speak, right? Yep. But then you're working with, I think on the opposite end of the spectrum, sometimes you work with these high achievers, right? Where they're like, I'm with you, John. I'm like killing it at work. I'm there all day. So how do I have the time for working out or being healthy when I'm in grind mode, so to speak? Or so I'm curious to know what you think about that. And then I'm going to add a second question to that too, which I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, which is some of the things that we sacrifice as high achievers. And one of them is passion and sex, sex with a significant other, as we start kind of diving more into work. So I'm just kind of curious to know, like, those two things, a little separate, but kind of still related.
Well, I think the first thing, and I deal with it often with, I make the joke, if someone says, I don't have time, I say, you're thinking like an average man. You have time. Let's look at your slots. Guaranteed you're going to find some of those slots, your 24-hour loop. You're scrolling. You're watching some TV that doesn't serve you. You're guaranteed you are, maybe it's 15 minutes here and 20 minutes there, but you can gather an hour that you're wasting. But are you being intentional with your time? Are you protecting your time? Because the more successful we get, time becomes more of a commodity. I protect my time like unbelievable. When I was younger, I had plenty of time.
Do whatever. Bring it.
Yeah. And that's the problem. When you got too much of something, you tend to waste it. And when you get in that habit, people tend to still be wasting time. They don't know it. So first thing is gather the time that you need. 1 hour, 30 minutes can go a long way if you're intentionally using it every day. People say all the time, oh, well, self-improvement is working on my self-improvement. Working on myself is selfish. I'm not talking about missing a Little League games. I'm not talking about not helping your kid with the homework. I'm talking about not scrolling. I'm talking about not watching that stupid TV. Maybe you watch half of the game that you like to watch. Mm-hmm. Sacrifice the shit that really doesn't matter for the stuff that does. And if you when it comes down to, guaranteed just about everybody on the planet can look around their life and find time they're spending on something that does not serve them or the loved ones. That's the time you gather.
So I want to kind of pivot here a little bit, still on the road of
your second question.
It's all good. We'll come back to it. Don't worry. We're good.
Yes.
We're good.
Because it's still kind of on that path where the mindset around sacrifice, essentially, mm-hmm. because, kind of circling back to, Dan's question, where when someone is grinding and they're moving and they're developing their business, and it's like, well, I'm putting a lot of energies here for the family, and I'm just fried chicken at the end of the day. Like my libido is shot. I can't even, especially with men sometimes, like if we start thinking a certain thing, we're all going to pop tents, if you know what I mean, right?
Totally.
It's just natural for us. And when our brains are essentially fried, just for men and even for women too, like that's just not something you want to touch. But you mentioned that is an integral part to marriages, to lifelong partnerships. Yep. What do you say to someone that is like they're, to Dan's point, like kind of casting that side out for the better, for kind of the better good of their business or their relationship?
So basically, you're fried because you're investing too much into your business. You don't have enough to give into your family and the stuff that matters. So this is what we're at. This is what we're attacking. I just want to make sure I'm totally following.
Yep.
Okay. So, I think the first thing that has to happen is that person that's fried needs to look at, are they taking care of themselves? Is there a set bedtime? Are they working on their circadian rhythm? Are they making sure that their sleep environment is done in such a way that they're going to get good sleep? Good sleep right alone will cure a ton of that problem. Most men that say that, they're laying on the couch wasting time watching, doing what they're doing when they could be taking that time and investing it into having a better tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So to say that they're fried, and a better way to put it, I mean, I specialize in helping business owners that are you literally have just described my avatar. Mm-hmm. The first question I'm going to ask is, you're trying to build this business, but are you building yourself? Your business is not going to build if you're toast.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. So Are you working on your mental framework daily? Are you making sure that you're eating in a way? Are you eating what you like to eat? Or you're eating what your body likes you to eat?
Mm-hmm.
Are you moving?
Big difference there. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Are you moving? And I'm not talking about going to the gym. You could. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients give me 15 minutes a day in their living room, and it changes their life. 15 minutes. You know? I mean, so when it comes right down to it, we have to do some inventory on the self, the person. Let's look at the time. Let's look at the time that's wasted. Let's look at, are we doing the things that we need to do to be the best version of you, so that you'll have more to give your business, which then you're going to have more to give your family. Because if you level yourself up, your business is going to level up. Next thing you know, you've got people in place, you got systems and people handling your stuff, and you got your time back. Right. But you're not going to develop that if you're fried and you're just you're complaining about being fried, but you're not taking any of the initiative to make sure that you as a person are going to be leveling up, so everything else around you will level up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that, and you said it's about putting the right systems in place, right? So it's one thing if like, all right, I'm just starting out, I'm young, or it's like, hey, new chapter in my life, brand new business, I got to start from the ground up. It's like, all right, cool, I get that. But then you have like the people, it's like, I've had the same business for like 10, 15 years, and it's like, you still don't have this, like you're still working 70 hours a week, like what the hell are you doing? Versus like, why haven't you built out systems to actually, like you said, like either hire staff or just automate stuff where now you're working less, working on more important things, but then you have the time to actually dedicate back towards relationships that really matter, like you said. So it's just funny that you pointed that out, because a lot of people kind of just miss that.
Yeah, I mean, it's either a system or a person handling your stuff, and it's pretty crazy that people miss this, and people will stay in the same spot over and over, and again, they'll repeat that same terrible process over and over because it's familiar, and the brain tells them, okay, you understand what that loop looks like, so just keep doing that loop, even though it doesn't serve you. You got to get uncomfortable, step outside that loop, make the changes necessary, and when it comes right down to it, we want like ultra focus and clarity. When you have ultra focus and clarity, what you can do with that will change your business, change your life, change your relationships, and that's the whole thing. I mean, it's like when a person is really, really on, he thinks. That's what he does. That's how he makes money. When a person is a zombie, he goes out and works.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, just to put bluntly, poor people work, rich people think.
Right.
Very true.
Very, very true. I want to kind of moving over to, because we were talking about like mental strain on people and, things to do after that. Lately, I think the last couple of years, there seems to be almost like a renaissance of bodybuilding in a very different way, like the world of muscle. And what's coming from that is you're seeing, you have different, it's like Sam Sulik, for example, right? Dr. Mike is retired.
Yeah, I know you're talking.
Right. But also there's older footage of like Mike Mentzer talking about things, Tom Platz talking about things, Schwarzenegger talking about things. And there's this interesting hive, you coming from also a bodybuilding background, there's this interesting hive of really brilliant people in the world of bodybuilding that seemingly know way more about the body than probably traditional medicine. Oh, yeah. And the way that they explain things of like, all right, maybe instead of doing all these pills after like postpartum, it's like maybe doing the Wolverine stack with BPC 157 and TB 500. That might actually get you up to speed faster.
Yeah, maybe a little GHKCU in there too.
All of that. Yes. So, but before we kind of dive into that, like we talked about sugar addiction, food, the hold that can have on a person. And when people are going through bodybuilding, you're breaking the muscle down, feeding it, and then cutting for a show. And I don't think most people realize like how hard that is to fight those cravings at that level with that level of hydration. Can you walk us through like what that's like?
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, I say this all the time. If you can have the discipline to compete at a high level, forget a high level. If you have the discipline to compete even at a fairly just a solid local level, you could take that discipline, you can take those habits, and you can make yourself $1 million inside of 2 years. It's so transferable. It's unbelievable, but people don't get it. But on that level, I mean, to compete at a high level, especially in bodybuilding, there's so many things that go into it. And you have to have the mindset, you know, to deal with it. And part of that is you have to, I mean, you got to be able to plan well. You've got to be able to lay out your plan, and you've got to be able to execute it. So, like for me, making decisions ahead of time, that's one of my strengths. You know, and I've carried that back from the time I was young. That's part of me. And back when I was the little guy with the learning disability, my mom, okay, let's lay out your clothes for tomorrow. I mean, my day was programmed because I wasn't going to get up and figure this shit out at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Too groggy.
So it had to be laid out. And so, you know, everything being planned was something that makes it's familiar to me, makes me feel good. And well, bodybuilding, it's this really intricate plan. And, you know, I think Kai Green was the one who said, it's the person who can carry out the plan making the fewest mistakes that's going to win. You know, it's because
I was just going to say that it's one thing of having a plan, but then also having the discipline to follow through exactly how it's laid out.
Yeah, and keep it. It's with a plan that intricate. I don't know that it would be possible to carry it out perfectly. We live in a world where there's always going to be something getting in the way or trying to get in the way, or
injuries, all kinds of.
But so it's almost perfection, and as we know, perfect doesn't exist. It's just camouflage procrastination. But in this setting, we're not procrastinating, so we can use the word. The guy who makes the fewest mistakes, the guy who is closest to perfect in most cases, is going to be the guy on top, because it's so easy to have the brain, you know, convince you that, oh, today you need a break.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That piece of cake, it won't hurt you.
It won't do anything. It's okay, baby. You can go.
And you know, and that's the whole thing I keep. We started off talking about the supercomputer.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to harness your supercomputer, especially in a situation like this, because this supercomputer is like an AI that's turned on you if you let it, because that thing will work against you so fast in one of these settings, because, you know, you're putting your body in a position where, you know, its survival is being threatened, right? And the brain was designed to keep the body alive. So you're basically walking it right into the root of the worst evil it can imagine.
So you got so many good. So you have to appreciate your inner AI.
Yeah. Oh God.
That is so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in those settings, if you put your body in a threatening, like its survival is threatened, your supercomputer is going to go bananas, and it's going to be telling you things that are going to be really easy to believe, and you realize it's all bullshit.
So when you're, you know, I appreciate you saying that. Like, I do a lot of, like we both of us do a lot of like Tony Robbins coaching, and he kind of points that out too. It's like in the past we had like real dangers that have all gone away, and now we're just like making up shit to kind of like feed into it. Essentially, it's like, you know, it's like there's no
this red light.
It's like he always brings up the same example of like saber-tooth tigers. He's like, but now we're not running from that, but like our brain is still.
Example on the planet. I use it all the time.
Slow Burger King employees for me.
Right.
What is this shit, man?
But it's like,
worst ever.
You know, we're always like looking for like what's wrong when everything that's like right is essentially right in front of us. But when we're looking at, you know, and you said like kind of almost like turning a weakness into a strength, right? And kind of curious, like what you would tell somebody about that, because like what I hate, I really don't like when people just say, "Hey, you just got to do this. Like, you just got to make the phone call," and people are like, "I'm fucking paralyzed by just those thoughts and those fears." It's like, what kind of like really actionable strategy would you say? All right, this is what you could do to overcome that, to actually take the action and still have the fear, because I find that people think the fear goes away. And what I've gotten from highly successful people like yourself is like, that shit's always there.
Yeah,
it's just, it's always there. Yeah. We just deal with it.
It's your best friend.
Yeah.
You don't want fear to go away. Fear's that thing that, you know, makes you do the shit you don't want to do when you need to do it.
But like everyone's like, oh, but you're not scared. It's like, no, I still have the same thoughts. It's just, I learned how to overcome it.
You know, I think one of the things, a lot of things that I tell myself that help, you know, we're supposed to suck. You know, when you do something that's new, you're supposed to suck. It's okay. So if for some reason if someone is like trying to step out and get started, right? And they're, oh my God, what if I fail? What are people going to say? Okay, well, you're supposed to suck. Own that. And the next time you do it, you'll suck a little bit less. Takes the pressure off, right? That's one of the things. And then what empowers me, and I love to empower other people by helping them understand. If you look back and you look at something that happened to them, it was traumatic. It was, whatever you like in my story, I thank God every day that he made me a dunce little son of a bitch that had these issues. Because I was there, I developed these parts of me, my work ethic and my skill set. Without that, I'm not me. And so when you look back and you find someone who's, they're stuck and they're trying to get out, and a lot of times they have a reason why they're stuck.
Yeah.
Right? You're looking at this from the wrong side of the equation. This happened to you and you're saying this is why you're stuck, but in actuality, this thing is what makes you're better because of this. You survived this. You've got a 100% survival rate of whatever happens in your life. You're still alive, which means that thing happened and you're still alive, which means you developed some sort of a skill or some sort of a mindset to deal with that. Let's parlay that into moving forward.
So I love that you're saying that, because you're essentially looking at things through the lens of gratitude and appreciation. And today there seems to be this big uptick of victim mentality that they want to stay and wallow in a particular place.
Learn helplessness from COVID, man.
So, but you're saying, hey, whatever happened, try to look at it from the lens of gratitude because it built you.
Yes.
Or if you're still wallowing, like, try looking at it from this perspective.
When you think everything that happens to you, it changes you. I make the joke, if somebody kicks me in the nuts and I'm on my hands and knees gasping for air, I'm thinking, well, I'm down here. I'm supposed to see something down here. I wasn't supposed to see if I was standing up. I'm looking for the silver line already.
Hey, look at a quarter. Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it is, and so no matter, maybe that swift kick in the nuts is I'm gasping for air. I come up with an idea that I wouldn't have had if I wasn't gasping for air. Yeah. When you think everything in your life, it changes you. And because you can sit there and blame people, places, I didn't achieve this because that happened to me. Or you say, because that happened to me, I developed this and now I'm an ass kicker.
I love that so much. And I want to kind of move into that, where you've coached a lot of entrepreneurs and people. Talk about the importance of culture and community, being around like-minded people. I don't feel like that gets talked about enough, where it's almost a Lone Ranger mentality in some situations. But culture and community is embedded in us as humans.
Well, totally. And to go a little, to basically go under the skin with that. See, our brains, right? It's basically, there's two sides of the equation. The brain can't be feeling anxiety and gratitude at the same time. And the people that get it, they've learned how to control their thoughts enough to keep that spigot pumping out cortisol off. Because when our brains are constantly pumping us full of cortisol, which we see it all the time, people are running around, they're sick, they're unhappy, they're stressed out, they're in a scarcity mindset, losing mindset. Those are the people we don't want to be around.
Right.
The people that we need to surround ourselves are the ones that have actually done the self-work. They understand how to keep that cortisol spigot off, that anxiety spigot off. They live more in a state of gratitude. They vibrate in a different way. The law of attraction is very real. People don't believe in that. Well, look around, because what's around you is exactly what you are. So how can you not believe in the law of attraction?
Yes.
But when it comes down to it, having people around you that are like yourself, or people that are even better than you, is so helpful, because all we really want to do as people is continue to develop and learn, and when we're around people that do what we do or do what we do even better, we're constantly growing. And at the end of the day, a human being wants to lay his head down on the pillow and say, you know what? I made some progress today. That makes a human happy. Maybe it's a little, maybe it's a lot, maybe it's on your physique, maybe it's in your business, maybe it's in your relationships, maybe all three, maybe all five, whatever. But at the end of the day, you want to make a little progress. That's what makes a human happy. And so the thing about today's times, see, when, goodness, I'm 53, before the internet, you couldn't go and get these. I mean, like Tony Robbins is a classic example. You could get his tapes, you could hear him, listen.
Speak, yeah.
But now we got a phone. You can go listen to. You can surround yourself with positive voices and all different. I mean, there's tons of them now. So creating your own culture is so key. Everybody has the ability to do that, and sometimes what happens, it happens all the time in my coaching, where unfortunately, fortunately, but unfortunately, as people start to level up, a lot of people in their lives end up not understanding, and they end up leaving, or they just don't fit anymore. They'll go find people that they're more comfortable around because the vibration is different.
Right.
These are people that want to sit around and talk shit about other people. These are people that want to talk about all the sorrows in life. As to where when you level up and you change your thoughts and you have the proper mental framework, and every day you reestablish yourself in the winning mindset and you are successful, you are elite, you don't want to sit around and talk about that stuff. And those people will go find others to do that with. And those of us that are on the other side will go find the other people. We're creating our own culture. When you, what do they say, the 5 people that you're around.
I was just going to get into, you're an aggregate of the top 5 people you're around.
And so now I tell my clients all the time, look, it's really difficult. If you have those 5 people, you are blessed. You can create those 5 people. Who are you listening to? Because that's what it comes down to. We have the ability to get the right voices in our ears now really easily.
It's interesting because in working with some folks, there's recommendations of people that they should have in their corner. I've always been a big fan of having someone that's in incredible shape as a really close friend, because that's going to rub off on you. Someone that's really good with finances. Someone that's has a great marriage. Like if you're in a marriage, I have some mentors that they've been married for also 20 plus years. They have kids, all that stuff. That you want to identify those people and that are ahead of you, and then have that be a part of your group.
It is so helpful to see someone that is, kind of moving your same direction, but they're advancing. You get to watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
You get to kind of understand, God, that's how they do it. And it's especially in relationships, one of the most difficult things for a person is to understand and get along with the opposite sex. And marriages and different types of relationships are challenging. But when you get to see firsthand, and what's firsthand sometimes can even be on television, if it comes down to it. That's why we're so lucky to have some of this technology. But yeah, I so agree. When you have these other people around you that are better than you, that it's like,
it's almost like a cheat code.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you can't help it. It's almost like as a parent, your kids kind of turn out like you, whether they like it or not.
Your pets and everything too. Yeah, it's a proximity thing.
It's the same thing, and it's like that if you can create that in person, it's hockey stick type progress, because you can't help but to soak that stuff up.
Yeah. You're like describing, I got one friend who's working out, like, all right, which one am I, the fine? I'm just kidding. Not the jacked one, that's for sure. So I'm going to take a little bit of a shift here. So like you're clearly a workout, you're in great shape, but you are getting older, right? So like some things start to break down a little bit. So I'm just curious to know how you balance out the natural side of what we know is good for us versus, the shit that we're taught. But like the natural side versus, all right, what's the part of healthcare and traditional medicine that I might embrace? Or if I'm a high achiever coming to you, like, all right, where do I balance out working out, taking my supplements and products and stuff that's really good for me, peptides and what have you, versus I going to the doctor and getting checked out. So I'm kind of curious to see how you kind of balance that.
100%. And I think here's the thing, like going to the doctor it's great because they can you can go to the doctor, you get a blood test, and they can help you decode some of those really difficult tests to understand. Because if I'm like trying to, other than a blood test, I haven't gone to the doctor in forever today, unless I get hurt. I get a surgery, I'll go to the doctor. But I live my life in a way that's, I live my life in a way, I make the joke. You're either creating, with your lifestyle, how you live your daily loop, you're either creating a positive or a negative health ripple. What kind of ripple are you making? Well, if you're making a positive ripple, you only go to the doctor if you get in a car wreck or you detach your bicep, whatever it is that's happening. You have the average American diet, you have the average American disease, which means you fit into the healthcare system perfectly. So on that level, we eat whole foods, we exercise, we hydrate. And when I say eat whole foods, it's not just hodgepodge. It's understand which foods work best for the individual. Eating on a bit of a schedule. I coach principles, not details, because high achievers, people that are busy, they don't have time to sit there and count calories and macros and shit, right? So, but there's a bit of a schedule, if you will, for food. There's a bit of a schedule of hydration. There's a bit of a schedule for all the things that we need to do to keep ourselves at that, living at that higher state. And it's everything from, even the self-work with the mental framework. So I guess to answer your question is, if you're doing it right, you really only need the doctor if you get hit by a car, right? Or if you need him to help you understand a really extensive blood test. And even nowadays, blood tests they've become so popular. They're even getting easier to read. Like 20 years ago, oh my God, look like it was like some sort of computer code. Now, got all these sliding scales with colors and shit. You can see real quick if you're high or low.
Yep.
And so it's even getting easier. But I think if the average person lived in a way where they were creating a positive ripple effect with their health, then today's medicine just kind of falls to the wayside.
I like
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
That was good. I appreciate it.
I like what you mentioned a second ago. You said two words, individuality and decode. And that there are segments of kind of the health system where it's like, all right, get some blood work done. I actually just did a food sensitivity test today. I did an MRT today.
Did you?
Yeah. It's been taking like forever to do, but I finally did it, where there might be some things that I eat that probably throw me off that I'm just not aware of. And just making these kind of micro pivots will move me in the direction of a better health quicker and faster than something traditional. So you're saying, like, for anybody, use the tools of today to decode what works for your bio-individuality. And then game plan after that, go into it from the perspective of like proper principles versus hyper specifics that's going to throw you off and confuse you.
Yeah. And on that level, to go even a little deeper and more simple. So the brain is the number one organ that we have that communicates with us. Stomach is number two. Most people, the signals they know from the stomach is, damn it, I'm starving, or God damn it, I ate too much. You know how many signals live in between there? Hundreds and hundreds of thousands. And so one of the things that I do is I teach my clients, I said, listen, you got to start to listen and understand the signals of your stomach. You're going to eat something. It might digest fast. It might digest slow. It might make, it's like you have this unique formula, and your stomach is going to give us that unique formula. And once we have your formula, everything is different. You know which foods, like perfect example for me, and it's actually fairly common, surprisingly enough, an essential fat. I'm big on making sure essential fats are regularly included in the diet. So an avocado, let's say we use 30 grams of avocado versus 30 grams of, say, almond butter. I will digest that avocado twice as fast. So if I'm in a situation like a meal that's close to work, I'm gonna use an avocado every time. If I'm gonna have a meal where like, okay, I need to, there might be a few hours for I can, I might have a little longer to get to my next meal than I think, I'll use the almond butter because it's gonna burn a little slower for me. But that's just one simple example of how, when you really start to understand food, digestion, and all the signals that your stomach gives you, everything starts to change in how you feel, how you perform, how you sleep. So what I really promote people to understand is I say the signals of the body, but a huge chunk of that is the stomach.
What are you seeing on, and I'm just more curious about your recommendation, like creatine in medicine is becoming like very studied now and very recommended by medical professionals who back in the day was like, this is the worst supplement ever, it'll trash your kidneys, and now it's like, all right, you guys finally caught up like 15 years later. What are you seeing on your end, like working with just people who aren't bodybuilders? Are you guys starting to make the recommendation as well? And like
100%.
It's like it's definitely getting more popular. So somebody's 100%. Like, how do I know how to use it properly? Because there is a definitely wrong way with anything to use it. So what's the right way somebody should go about using that to maximize their health benefits from it?
Absolutely. before I jump on that, going back to the stomach, one thing that people don't understand is that the lion's share of serotonin is produced in the stomach. So
it's like 70%, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I was gonna say I say 75, but obviously if situation like this, we're recording this, so I don't want to use a number, but it's the line. It's
like Dan said it,
yeah, exactly. but when you get the gut health in check, because your stomach is giving you your set of signals, you are maximizing that serotonin, and that's the good stuff. That makes us that we feel well with adequate serotonin. So. Creatine, bam! I was never a huge creatine guy when I thought it was just for a pump in the gym. I've always stayed focused on. I want to do the things that are going to help me develop with the big picture. I don't really worry about so much. Like I've never been a big pre-workout guy. I never really leaned on the things that are going to help me today, but not down the road, because it just seemed like I was putting my attention on the wrong spot. I'm always where do I need to put my attention? For the big picture. So, but that was just for a pump in the gym. The pumps, you get a pump and you leave. I'm not a pump chaser, But once they started to realize that it was so much more than just the muscles, I mean, goodness, once they started talking about cognitive function, now it's a game changer. I use it all the time. I travel with it. I mean, I would say on any given day, I do a minimum of 4 doses, 5 grams each time. Up to 6. And then I just spread them out throughout the day. Helps hydration, helps all sorts of stuff. There actually just some new research just came out. I'm having a brain fart on what the actual terms were, but there's another variant of creatine which actually helps it load into the system much, much faster. Yeah, my wife just spit it. I couldn't hear what she said, but so it's going to basically become even more effective. And again, for me, of course, performance, when I say performance, people look at me and think, oh, he's talking about the bench press. No, performance to me is here. Yeah. All this stuff, it's like the nuts dragging behind,
So my wife's been starting to take it for the last couple months, and it's definitely helped her.
Did you notice a difference?
Big difference. I noticed it too.
Crazy. I know.
Especially handling the kids. Like I have a 4-year-old and 2 twin boys that are a year and a half. So like baby brain is a big thing. So it's just easier for her to function and be kind of a little bit more alert and just not be so foggy is probably the creatine.
And hydration is a big thing too. I mean, it's all about moving water around. So, like when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I drink down about 1 liter of water. I don't just crush myself with it. I drink as much as I can, wait a little while. I'm not the guy that's, get that down. No, let's enjoy our lives, but let's do what we need to do to operate at the highest level. So every time I drink, like first thing in the morning, boom, I'm going to have a serving of creatine, sometimes even 2. If I'm drinking that water, if I'm hydrating a little bit extra because I got a big workout coming, I'll pull a second serving down. But there's no question, absolutely no question, it's been helpful for me on a cognitive level. So I recommend it to all my clients now, 100%.
Cool, love it.
So I want to kind of continue on that track where people, there's that kind of fine balance now of like embracing traditional medicine, but then also kind of moving into the world of like peptides and hormones and not just pulling the blood work out for, food, but like, there's we had someone here on the show a couple weeks ago where it seems like the FDA is really starting to crack down on peptides because they actually work and help and heal.
Well, they're because they need to harness the money out of them. It's a money thing.
So what are your thoughts on that in general? Because I still feel like to the general public, it's a little bit on the newer side. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, the peptides are highly, highly effective. I think the biggest thing, 2 things that kind of bother me with it is the fact that because, it wasn't that long ago when it was kind of undiscovered. Yeah. Right? And it's all under research material, right? Which means somebody gets sick, somebody dies, nobody gets in trouble, right?
So the liabilities throw off that progression is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's research material. You're not supposed to be taking it as a human. Everybody knows that we're taking it as a human but the company that makes it is clearly marketing it. This is research material, right? So if you take it, it's on you. You know, it's like if you drank a bottle of Drano, you know,
not good. Yeah.
You're not going to go sue the company because you got poison. It's not for human consumption, right? So anyway, yes, they're highly effective, and yes, they're. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming out is going to change medicine, which is amazing. But what the concern that I have is that because it's so easy to produce and there's no regulations, there's so much stuff out there that is no good. Like I'm in a real world example. I was talking to one of my clients today, and he was I'm going to keep all the names aside, of course. And he was talking about using a certain peptide that is pretty much guaranteed to leave a sore spot in the injection site. You know, it's not by the person, it's just what's in the damn peptide, right? And he was like, yeah, I never have that problem. Well, it's because he's got something that's not real. What is it that he's putting in himself is the question. And that's the thing that concerns me with peptides, is because it's not regulated and people realize how powerful they'll go out and they're getting them, and the sources that they're going to may not be what they think that they are.
Yeah, money-making opportunities too.
Yes.
That's call it what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when it comes down to it, if someone has a really, really good legitimate source where it's safe, peptides can be a game changer, especially after injuries and such. I mean, literally when it comes to some of the new stuff that's in like phase 2 testing, it could completely change, you know, the curve of human health. But
that's pretty massive. It's a big statement. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, then all of a sudden we have our friends at the FDA that are going to get in the mix and try to do this and try to do that. It's like, you know, there's a lot of things out there that could be uncovered that are helpful, and they're not. And that's just the world we live in, unfortunately.
So you have a lot of these things that are there designed to help the body, help heal.
Yep.
I really feel that way around the mind, especially with philosophy. How has the study of philosophy helped you, and what do you encourage people to get into if they're looking to dive into that world?
Well, you know, in college, you know, as a major, I was theology, and minor was philosophy. I was realistically, I was one credit shy, but I claim it.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, what it did for me is it kind of like it's a way of thinking. You know, it really helps the framework of how you look at things. And so I think I think philosophy is, you know, I'm a big one on don't get lost in the details. Understand the spirit of what we're supposed to be doing. Think principles, not details. And I think when you take a philosophy of how you think and how you live your life, this is where people can take you know, philosophy as a whole and have it be most useful to them. You know, you can have a conversation about some of the greatest philosophers on the planet, but it's really not going to help you live a better life tomorrow. But you think of, you know, different philosophies and how you can take what you know and apply it into your life. Let's take it and let's use it like this. You know, it becomes very applicable. You know, it's like we don't have an information crisis. We have an application process. Application crisis.
Yeah, very true.
and it's because people get so lost in the details that they're not looking at the spirit. They're not looking at the principle. They're not looking at the theory. They're not looking at the philosophy of how it's supposed to unfold. So make it simple. Stay focused on, you know, a lot of the stuff with philosophy was to make life better. Well, let's apply it to making life better.
Well, one of my favorite is a quote from Bruce Lee, who was kind of a philosopher in his own right when he created the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. He says that knowledge is not enough. We also must apply.
Yes. 100%. And I'm telling you that, brother, right now. I mean, that's like, you look at me, I mean, I'll be the first to say, you know, when it comes to books, I'm not the smartest dude. But you give me a little bit of information that I understand well, and I will put that shit to work.
Yeah.
You know, I know what I know well, right? And those areas, it's not only that I know it, I practice that shit like no other. I mean, I'm relentless in what I do because I love what I do, and I'm an addictive personality. I'm addicted to what I do. And I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning because I want to, because I can't wait to get up and I want to earn that winning status again. I'm even thinking about tomorrow. It's only 5:30 right now, or something like that, and I'm already excited about tomorrow.
For someone that's watching this and they're like fired up and like, dude, I would love to get some of that discipline, get some of that mindset, and potentially work with you, Jon. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So the best way is going to be my Instagram, but keep in mind my name is spelled differently. So
with the E-N.
Yeah. Well, first and last name. I got the double doozy. So Jon is Jon, and then Andersen is Andersen, which is Nordic.
Yep.
So the Instagram handle is @the_Jon_Andersen. And I make a really, really big point of my day to get in there, and I will respond to anybody who comes in and talks to me. I mean, I want to help as many people as I can before my time is done. That's my purpose now. My purpose now is to, I've achieved a lot, and I believe that everything I've done was just was there to kind of teach me how to do what I do and teach other people how to do it. But ultimately, when someone comes in there, whether they just want to bullshit real quick, or they want to talk about working with me, or maybe they just want a piece of advice, I'm going to help everybody. I actually have it's a handbook. It's a mental handbook I have it called Monster Mindset. And it's a quick read, but there's some really, really good takeaways, some action steps in there that anybody can take. And it talks about, frame of mind and the thoughts that we have. So at very least, you're going to go away with that.
Oh, I love that. That's a great book. Thank you so much for jumping on the show with us today. Learned a lot.
That was awesome.
Stuff.
I
Great
appreciate
stuff,
you
man.
guys.
Thank you.
You got it.
And we're out. Yeah. Dude, you got some listen and understand the signals of the stomach, defend.